We'll see how this does. All right, welcome to today. The intent of today is just to give an overview. What's happening in the city? What did we achieve over the last 12 months? What are we working to achieve? Our future partners in the city, Niron, are here today. I think that's what's generating a lot of excitement for this. So we'll get through most of the content, and then Niron's going to join us up and be able to share more about their organization and what they hope to achieve developing in Sartell. So again, Ryan Fitz and I serve as the mayor of City of Sartell. We have Councilmember Elness with us today. 3 other council members aren't able to join us, but on the screen here is the Sartell City Council. We have a few of our staff members here today. I think a few more that aren't represented on the screen. Important to note, questions that I cannot answer, they absolutely can. And so they're the front table right here. So before you leave today, if you have a question that isn't answered, please make sure we connect. We will also take your email. There's slips in the back. Write a question down, and we'll be able to follow up via email or phone call. Before I get into the agenda, we wanted to share a brief update on demographics. We have surpassed 20,000 residents in the city of Sartell. So big milestone for us. I think quite a few in here can recall when we were 4,000 or 5,000 and how we've evolved. We've hit 20. I think the 35,000 number is quickly approaching as well. Couple highlights, maybe tough to see a little bit, but this represents population by age group. Our largest age group is the 35 to 44. And I think we recognize that as we see the younger community out interacting, youth sports. And then I'll draw your attention to the bottom right. We lead in a category here, which is a retired single age group. Am I saying that right? We lead the state in that, or we lead our region in that area. We're 37% over for the state. All right, so we'll jump into the agenda. 3 areas that I really want to highlight for us, and I hope you walk away with today. One is that Sartell remains safe. So we'll talk about our investments in public safety, both police and fire, and what those results continue to be. Our consistency of our low tax rate. And so a 0 rate change, again, this year is planned, and we'll show you how that stacks up against our neighboring communities. And then the last one, and the really big one for us, and has been for a couple years now, is being very intentional on our development. The city of Sartell has taken very direct action to generate, spur, encourage development. First, with our tax rate. Again, proposed, which will be finalized in December, is a 0 change. And so we've got our math here as we've gone through the last couple of years. So the city levy is the amount that the city needs to operate. What our staff feels we need to bring in via taxes in order to operate the city and function accordingly. Taxable tax capacity, that is the valuation of all the properties within the city of Sartell. Right? So to get our city tax rate is the levy divided by the tax capacity gets our rate of just under 42%. Why that's important is it allows us to level up or be consistent as we evaluate our neighbors. And so in this graph here, you can see City of Sartell is the blue that runs straight across the bottom. Sauk Rapids beat us last year, really got after us. They're coming back up, so they're not maintaining that consistency. And then you can see some neighboring communities here and what they're taxing their residents. Sartell has a long legacy of being flat tax, being as fiscally conservative as possible. And I can tell you that our current council continues to carry this forward. talking a little bit about our public safety. On the screen here, you can see a number of highlights and highly visible investments that we've made within public safety. On the top left, we have a new tender or tanker fire truck that is being decaled right now. That's about a $350,000 piece of equipment. I think the city's into that for about $20,000. Rob, is that give or take? So we were able to obtain a FEMA grant to bring that equipment to our fire department. The current one that's in use is over 25 years old. And so this is a great addition for our team at the fire department. A lot of new features onto it, which will allow fire suppression to happen faster and allow our fire department or firefighters to be safe on the fire ground. Bottom left, we can see Kimber with Officer Carey. Like everyone in this room, everyone in the region knows Kimber by now. We've also added a second canine, which is less friendly, named Echo. Chief Silliard in the back will make sure that you don't confuse the two when you go to pet them. But nonetheless, Sartell now, fast forward after just a few years, we now have 2 canines that support our community and quickly support the whole region. Canine Echo is also part of the SWAT team for the city of St. Cloud and the region. And so Sartell continues to progress within our public safety, which not only supports the city of Sartell and all of our residents, all the business visitors that come here, but we're also going to our neighbors. In the middle, you can see a life-saving award. I think city of Sartell, from a life-saving perspective, it feels like every third month we've got a cadence of life-saving awards that come through. The gut-wrenching stories that families will share of when they called 911, how the Sartell officers responded, how the partners within public safety, whether it be Mayo Ambulance or fire department, responded and took care of those patients. And we get to celebrate the good outcomes of that. And then on the right, bottom right, is a new program that Chief Silliard implemented this year, which is a cadet program. And so he was able to get funding from, I believe, state of Minnesota for a cadet program. And it's bringing non-traditional officers into law enforcement. And so on the screen here, you see 3 that Sartell has taken on into the cadet program. They are currently training at Alexandria Tech College to be officers, and they'll join our force in early 2025 as a sworn police officer. So again, some really creative ways that we've been able to bolster our force. Both our fire department and our police department either are now or will be here in the very few months at full force. If you drive around our region, especially on a fire department side, you see advertisements all over the place in media, signs on the roads, advertising for volunteer firefighters. It is a hard commitment to make these days, and I'm proud that Sartell is fully staffed with over 30 firefighters. The last thing I'll highlight on this slide is the top right. That's a 9/11 memorial that happens annually for our department. Getting up at 5 in the morning to put that out. The calls, texts, emails that we get from residents and those coming in to visit our businesses of just the chills they get as they drive through that or under it. So again, proud of our department. All this that I'd sum up is we continue to invest. It's the single largest point on our budget. It's well over 50% of the Sartell levy goes to our public safety. And the outcome of that is lower crime in our area. So this one's going to be really hard to see. But this is a graph of crime. The purple at the bottom represents the city of Sartell. The blue here represents Minnesota, and this is United States. And so obviously, I'd love to get it more detailed and to share how we stack up against our local partners. But I think this also tells a story of how crime remains consistently low in Sartell, and our investment in law enforcement will continue to drive that down. On the bottom, we can see our fire department. We've made significant strides in fire prevention and education. Sartell's very fortunate to be a young community. When we think of our commercial complexes, when we think of our multifamily complexes, vast majority of those are sprinkler buildings, which certainly reduces the incidents from a public safety fire department perspective. Our neighbors aren't as fortunate there, and retrofitting a building just doesn't make sense a lot of times in a multifamily. Residential development. On the screen here, you can see a picture of the city of Sartell, what our boundaries are, and the yellow represents Leasock Township. So there's been a lot of publication, a lot of chatter, news about an orderly annexation agreement. That is now coming due, or coming to life now. That was actually created back in 2021 between the city of Sartell and Leasock Township. And I guess rather than created, was amended at that point. And the intent of it was to bring in the islands. And so, as you can see on the screen here, we've got a number of different islands that are in the heart of our community. They leverage the city of Sartell infrastructure, our trails, our parks, yet they sit in the township. Nothing wrong with sitting in the township, but the residents of Sartell are footing the bill for all those amenities. And so we came together with the Leasock Township, agreed that there's a desire to clean a lot of this up, to bring them in, but that we needed a period for that to happen. So that was a 3-year period. Again, that's commencing now, 2024 at the end of it here. 2025 is really when that'll hit from a tax perspective or taxing authority. Call out the last 12 months, we've had 31 single-family homes built in the city of Sartell. That activity's generated $13 million, almost $14 million in valuation increase for us. I think that's all we're going to hit on from a residential perspective. From a commercial development perspective, we've got a lot on the screen. I know at the chamber level, there's a lot of conversation about every bullet on here, so I won't go exhaustively through that. The biggest one I want to hit on here is the Central Minnesota Healthcare Hub and the medical school impact. So Sartell's had the medical arts area. We've rebranded it to Central Minnesota Healthcare Hub. I'm sure in 5 years it'll be rebranded again. But the intent of that corridor is to leverage the significant infrastructure and investment that's already there from a healthcare perspective. I think I told the story last year here about the city of Willmar, and I was having breakfast at a conference with the mayor of Willmar, and he was griping about having to come all the way to St. Cloud and really Sartell for medical services. And here I'm sitting there celebrating, and I think we all can celebrate that we have a large presence in the region of medical that sits in Sartell and or adjacent to Sartell across the road. We've been very intentional about leveraging that and seeing that take off and grow. The medical school is a big part of that. CentraCare is making significant investments into the city of Sartell for some of their complexes. One of them is nearly doubling as a 3-story building. We've got the old Health Partners building that is coming to market over the next, I think, 6 to 12 months. We know there's significant interest from multiple medical facilities to go there. And so we're very encouraged of what that can mean. Not only from a residential perspective is that we've got that high level of healthcare close, but from a business perspective, regardless of what business you're in, we're bringing activity and we're bringing traffic to our area for medical needs. The Mill District. So we continue to move forward on the Mill District, slowly, steadily. There was a publication maybe a month ago that Sartell Mill District maybe had a setback. I wouldn't call that accurate. Our plan right now, and has been, is to get the public there safely and with infrastructure that allows it. And so what most recent action that the city has taken is to go out to bid or retool what we're asking the contractors to bid. The bid we had came in higher than expected. And so we want to be fiscally conservative, make sure we're doing it right. But our full intent is to get the general public on that site with different walking paths and have this area cleaned up. We would have utilities put in on the site as well as part of that. And that's really a kickoff phase. We know that once there's activity there, that excitement is only going to grow. Behind the scenes of all of that, we continue to work on securing a owner's representative. And that would really be the city's, I guess for lack of a better term, I'd call it our realtor. Someone that's going to take our entity or the Mill District out to the marketplace to find partners in developers to develop that out with the 30,000-foot view of what the city and our residents want that to develop out as. Our intent continues to be mixed development. There's a lot of concepts that can be done here. Again, we've referred to this as the belly of the site. It's roughly 57, 58 acres, and there's just under 30 that's really in that belly area to develop out. So we think of the excitement of local communities around us that have a really fun, vibrant downtown. This is Sartell's future downtown. This is a blank canvas of 60 acres that we get to develop out in our current vision. You can bike, you can walk, you can boat to the site. Find us another one in our region, maybe even in the state that you can do that. That's a blank canvas waiting to be developed. So very excited of what the future of that will bring. I'll temper a little of that excitement is that it's not going to be built tomorrow. It's likely a 5 to 10 plus year full development out. And 5 years might be a little eager on my side. But this will be one heck of a development when it's done. And lots of different amenities from being able to live on the site, being able to recreate, play, and likely work on the site as well. Shift over to being intentional about our development. I wasn't sure where this photo came from, and Nikki reminded me as she was putting this together for us. I think some of the Niron folks can appreciate. So I'll start with our vision. The city of Sartell's economic vision is to recruit them so much that they don't want to be anywhere but here. Second part goes on to talk about risk and how we manage that risk, how we understand what the residents of Sartell want in and around their neighborhoods, what the residents of Sartell want from a tax-based perspective, what we want from a traffic or do not want from a traffic perspective, right? And so our staff, our city council weighs all of those while we're out in the public trying to recruit, attract, retain businesses. Probably not much different than you and your own business. So we acquired in July of 2023 the mill site. Along with that Mill District property came 167 acres that are just off 4th Avenue South, just behind the Public Works Building, Partners Pub. Anyone familiar in that area? Really sits between 2nd Street South and Heritage Drive, east of 4th Avenue. So we attained 167 acres. With that came a landfill. And the picture on the bottom here was our first time having Niron into our community. We were touring them around with a series of public works vehicles. I was told I had to drive one of them. I had Jonathan, the CEO of Niron. Again, first time meeting them, letting them know how awesome Sartell is. And I buried one of our pickup trucks as far out as you could be from 4th Avenue South. Hell of an impression. So what did we do? We ditched the truck. We called for some resources, and we commandeered another one. And I chose to ride in the back of it, I guess, the whole way back, which took a little while. But again, it's us being personable. It's us being human. And I think that's what that picture really is a testament to. Diversifying tax base. As we talked about being intentional for development, currently 67% of our tax base is on the back of residential homes. Now, I think if we remember back to COVID, that actually was a very strong point for us. As we saw commercial development in area cities, locally, nationally, really decrease, residential didn't. And so being heavy on residential during that period of time was a strength for us. It's not where we want to be long term. And so about that intentionality is how do we bring in diversified businesses to take over a share of that tax burden to lessen it on our residential. That's not only beneficial for the city of Sartell. If done in certain areas, it's very beneficial for the school district. It's also beneficial for the county. So the entrance of Niron in a full-scale capacity would take our industrial percentage from 2% up to 5%. So we can see a significant jump there with just one partner coming in on that. And we're going to continue to grow in that area. We believe the Medical Arts Campus, the Central Minnesota Healthcare Hub, continues to offer that opportunity for us. Walk through a timeline here of the Niron partnership that continues to be in the works. Maybe a little hard to see. This, I believe, will get up on our Q&A website, so you'll be able to dive deeper in there. But for multiple reasons, a lot of the conversations up to this point have happened in a closed session with the council. There was negotiation going back and forth that at that point in time, state law allowed us to, and we were really required to as part of our process, but also part of agreements as we look to secure the deal. And so now we're past that point in time. We're able to celebrate it. We're able to share it. And as we continue to work through a lot of those agreements, they'll now be able to be public, and we'll get a lot of feedback from residents, businesses, to ensure that we have it constructed correctly. But I want to call out, so May 2024, City of Sartell responded to a deed Department of Employment and Economic Development had sent out, and you might have heard of Project Maxwell. That is what it was referred to. And so it was under the name of Project Maxwell. We responded to that, and you can see how it quickly progressed. We were in July, they came up to visit. We had a number of stakeholders from staff, myself, community stakeholders, school stakeholders that really showed them around the city and showed them what Sartell can offer, what property availability looked like. We went as detailed as they wanted to understand where their employees could live in the city of Sartell, what options are available from full spectrum of residential housing. They want to understand what our school district's about, right? And so that took place in July. And I'll remind you, that was 1 year after we acquired that 167 acres with the being intentional to redevelop that, right? And so in 12 months, we've now landed a great prospect for us to redevelop with. We can go through activity in August, September, fast forward all the way to September 17th, we had Niron back. We were a top 3-ish contender at that point in time. And it really opened the spectrum. In July, it was all about Sartell, as we were competing against 75 other communities nationally. The fun part in September is we got to celebrate the region. Sartell was the only one in the region that was working to land Niron at this point. And so not only did we show all of Sartell, we went out and had a great dinner at Crew in St. Joe. We toured St. Cloud Technical and Community College and saw all the amazing things happening there. We went down to downtown St. Cloud and showed what activity could be there. And it was so much fun seeing all of our regional partners come together. We had letters of support from the mayor of Sauk Rapids, Waite Park, St. Cloud. Everyone was on board, knowing what this opportunity could mean for the region, not just the city of Sartell. Fast forward, September 30th, had a purchase agreement signed, and now we're able to go public. Again, this is kickoff of step one of those public conversations about what Niron could mean in the city of Sartell. There'll be more coming. We've got a website stood up with a lot of Q&A, and as more information is available, it'll be put on there. I'd encourage you to subscribe to that so you'll get a notification when updates are made. At this time, I would love to ask our regional partners who participated in the Project Maxwell or Niron to stand up. And so take a look around. Not only do you see business leaders, regional partners, we've got a great group of youth. And to think about our youth played a key role in landing a significant business in the city of Sartell is something we all should be excited about for our future. So give them a round of applause. At this time, I would invite the students forward, as well as Niron. And so as I understand it, I haven't seen it yet, but our students made you a little welcoming gift. Again, another round of applause for the students. I will hand it over to Niron for introductions. They've got a brief deck to walk through, introduce you to their company, and then I'll jump back up. Leslie.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, everybody. Let me do a quick round of introductions here. Do we have a clicker, Ryan, for our deck? Perfect. Thank you. So let me quick start with Mark. We'll do some introductions, and we'll give you a little bit of intro of who Niron is.
As we talked earlier, Mark Stramick, I'm the Vice President for Government Affairs for Niron Magnetics. I'm a Minnesota native, and I say that actually I live out in Washington, D.C. I've been out there for almost 30 years now, but I fly back and forth here about twice a month here, it seems like it. Yeah, but really excited about the project we're going to be going forward with here.
Hi, I'm Pete Ladwig, the VP of Nanoparticle Technology. What is that? We'll tell you in the presentation. We'll tell you how we make our particles. I live in Hutchinson, Minnesota, so I have 3 kids in hockey, so I've been up to Sartell many times, love this community, and very excited about the opportunity.
Yeah, hi, I'm Dave Northall. I'm not from Minnesota. I came here about 2.5 years ago to join Niron, and help make this exciting project viable. And to see where we've gone from making 3 grams at a time to where we're now having a facility that's going to be able to produce 1,500 tons a year is absolutely amazing and impossible to do without the support from yourselves and support from excellent people like Pete, Mark, and Leslie.
Great, thank you. I'm Leslie Hunter. I'm the Senior Director of Projects at Niron Magnetics. I'm actually a graduate of Black Duck High School, which is north of Bemidji. So I used to drive through St. Cloud Sartell all the time going to the cities back when I was a kid. So small town win is great from my heart as well. But we want to make sure that you guys kind of knew who Niron was, but I wanted to first pause and say that artwork that we got was just really fantastic. So just want to quick pause and say thank you. That is just fantastic. And the city of Sartell and the GSDC and everyone who helped get us here, the work and the effort and the dedication is outstanding. So thank you to everybody who did that. I just want a quick pause because it really can't be undersold. There was 75 communities, yes, but for sure Sartell stood out from day one. Just fantastic job. All right, so we think it's important for you to understand a little bit who Niron is as far as our vision and our values. So I want to start there just to ground you on who we are at our core. And that, I'm just going to read it to you verbatim. Our vision is to become the leading global supplier of powerful, rare, earth-free permanent magnets, creating a secure and reliable supply chain for global electrification, all while protecting the environment. A lot of words, but we'll go into that a bit more when Pete talks about what we do. We skipped a slide there. So the mission, to manufacture and scale the strongest rare earth-free permanent magnets to power a clean and secure world. And the first value that we have is sustainability. We are a green company. Our core value is to be sustainably driven and partner with customers who use our products to change the world. In addition, we have a real team focus. We are an empowered team committed to our health and safety. We trust, respect, and challenge each other. If you've hung out with Dave or Mark or I, you'll see that quite often. We challenge each other all the time. Innovation, we are a learning organization and love a challenge. We innovate, solve problems, and we push boundaries. It's healthy to do so. And for results, we deliver results. To achieve the extraordinary, we commit to top quality work every single day. We work hard, and we make sure we do it in a great way. As for how we were born, this is kind of an interesting story. So back in 2010, there was a fishing boat from Japan fishing in Chinese waters. Seems pretty innocuous. However, China didn't... Oh, sorry, I said it backwards. So they got upset because they didn't want to have... wasn't it Japanese, though? Because China got mad. All right. In any event, we learned at this point that China controlled all of the world's magnets, which isn't a good thing. We want to make sure that we have our own access to magnets because, as you'll also see in a few slides, magnets are everywhere. And basically, your cell phone, you have 18 magnets if you have 3 cameras. For our defense systems, we need magnets. So ARPA-E decided that we needed to fix that. So they put out some research dollars to several universities across the country to try to figure out how we could solve this crisis. At the end of a few cycles, they found that the University of Minnesota had the best viable product. So they put all of their focus into that product. And they then got some investors on board to make sure that we could help get that off the ground and into market. And then Niron, I'm simplifying a bit, summarizing for the sake of time, but Niron was born, and now we are creating our first rare earth magnet and bringing that into our first plant production. And then I'll hand it over to Pete to talk more about how magnets are made. Got your hands full? Okay.
All right, next slide, please. All right, so what is this stuff? So to make a great magnet, you need a magnetic element, that's iron. And so a lot of magnets use iron, but today's best magnets also use neodymium, dysprosium. We'll hear a little bit about that. It's really damaging for the environment. So we're able to make the world's most powerful magnet, the most magnetic material known, which has actually been around for about 50 years in theory. People have hypothesized if you can make this stuff, it would be a really great magnet. No one has figured out how to do that until Niron came along. We figured out how to make that in bulk. So what is it? It's this alpha double prime 16,2 iron nitride. That sounds really fancy. That's a name us material scientists give it to ensure we have jobs. But really what it is, it's just iron. It's 16 iron atoms with 2 nitrogen atoms. Iron being one of the most plentiful materials in the Earth's crust. You have thousands of pounds of iron in every one of your vehicles. Nitrogen is the most plentiful element in the air. You're breathing 75% roughly nitrogen with every breath that you take. So why is this so special? Think of it's a crystal structure. If you think of carbon, carbon is the lead in your pencil. It's not actually lead, it's actually graphite, and it's mainly carbon. But then you also have diamond. Diamond is also just carbon. So it's this particular crystal structure of alpha double prime iron nitride that we've figured out how to make in bulk. And we can make that with, 100% free of rare earths with domestically sourced materials. So we're very proud of that. Next slide. So how do we make this stuff? So we start out with iron and we make highly engineered rust. We make gamma maghamite technically, but it's really rust, the same stuff that is unfortunately forms on our vehicles up here in winter, particularly with a lot of the salt on the roads, which we'll get to. But we start out with iron nanoparticles, and they have to be just right, just the right size, and we figured out how to make those. We take the oxygen out, and we put nitrogen in, and that creates this material, this alpha double prime iron nitride material. And it's probably hard to see, but I'll let you play with this after the presentation. You can see how magnetic this material is. And so the main inputs are an iron, which is a purchased material from scrap iron, and then we use hydrogen, which gets consumed in the process and recycled. So what comes out is water vapor. And then the next part where we put nitrogen in, we use ammonia. Ammonia is sprayed on fields out here in vast quantities, right? Far larger than we will ever use. Most of that is consumed in the process and recycled, and there's very little ammonia that's emitted, negligible compared to what is used in the surrounding community. And then finally, the material, the wastewater that comes out is a clear material, brine or sodium chloride, the table salt. Right? The same stuff you put on your steak and the same stuff that is sprayed on the roads out here in winter. So those are the main byproducts coming out of this process. So we're really proud of not only the material that we make, but also how we make it.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about how we've got to where we are in our partnerships. Our partnerships really cross the boundaries between industry, academia, and federal government. So on the far left-hand side here, local investments. As Leslie indicated, we are actually a rollout of the University of Minnesota. We started with the university back in 2013. What's unique about this, we have partnerships still with the University of Minnesota Regents who have invested with the company since the very beginning. We also have investors from the Medawakan and Sioux community, or the Shakopee tribe. They're actually one of the largest private investors in the company who have invested in a lot of green tech businesses across the state of Minnesota. And then MISCO. MISCO is actually one of the largest and oldest manufacturers of speakers in the United States. On the government side, on the Department of Energy side, we talked about ARPA-E. The ARPA-E is the Advanced Research Program Agency for Energy. They do all the special projects. They're starting to look at how you can do new innovative technology areas. They funded us back in 2013, and they also funded us here in 2022 for a grant project to actually build a pilot facility in Northeast Minneapolis. In fact, we're doing our ribbon cutting for that facility here on Thursday of this week. That's a 70,000 square foot facility that serves as our corporate headquarters, as well as our research and engineering, as well as our largest magnetics laboratory in the world. Ames Laboratory out of Iowa. Ames Laboratory is part of the Department of Energy. They are the top laboratory in the United States that actually looks at magnetic technology. On the commercial side, we have partnership agreements already in place, and when I say partnership agreements, investing in the company. Samsung, General Motors, Volvo, Stellantis, names you all know, have invested in the company because they're looking at how they can reduce their supply chain challenges. How do they reduce their reliance on China and foreign adversaries for where they have to basically get the permanent magnets today? And then looking at the private capital, Anzu, Artemin, Volta are all three private capital funded venture fund companies who have supported us since the very beginning as well. Next slide. Who is this clicker? All right, so let's talk a little bit more about us as a company. Green tech is very important to us, and that's what Leslie talked about. In 2023, we were actually recognized by Time Magazine as one of the top green tech businesses in the United States. Most recently, we were actually identified by Time again as number 26 out of 4,500 companies across, number 22, excuse me, 22. It says out of 250, but it was actually 4,500 companies across the U.S. that they evaluated for top green tech businesses. And then we were also on the cover of Fast Company here just recently in this, for our green tech climate change programs. We were on the cover of Forbes magazine in May of last year as well, and just really a lot of incentives to looking at how we are looking to change the environmental impacts. Go ahead, next slide. You want me to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if any of you drove here this morning, but if you didn't have magnets in your cars, you wouldn't be driving. You'd be standing at the front of your car with a crank and winding it up in the same way that Ford did many, many years ago with the Model T. If you listened to any music this morning, you wouldn't have been listening to any music if there wasn't for magnets, right? I wouldn't be talking to you on this. You wouldn't have power in the lights, anything. The magnets are the unsung heroes. Somebody approached me 2.5 years ago when I was working somewhere, building very big plants for other things, and said, would you like to come and build a plant for making magnets? I had no idea how important magnets were. Now I'm a huge advocate of magnets. I love them. And we're not talking about fridge magnets. We're talking about magnets that are so strong that if you put them together, you will not be able to pull them apart. They're very, very powerful magnets. So as you see on here, there's a small use inside your mobile phones, from the camera system, the recharging systems, the vibrating systems that go on inside the phone. Not an awful lot, but there's a lot of them that are sold. In wind turbines, generation of power. Anywhere where you're generating power, you have magnets. So wind turbines are a huge user of magnets. In your cars, the F-35s, the latest generation of fighter jets last year, were all grounded. And they were grounded because they had Chinese magnets in them. They had to be changed out. And then all of these small tools, these little tools that you use these days, you don't have to plug into the walls anymore. Those mobile tools, the magnets that we produce are lighter and more powerful, so it means that the battery packs on them ultimately will be smaller, or the battery packs will last longer in them, because the magnets are that much more effective. And then speaker systems. Again, if you like music, you need magnets. In a car, not looking at the electrification from the powertrain for it, but just the motors in a car. The starting motor, the windscreen wipers, the air conditioning units, the seat motors, the window motors, the wipers at the back of the car. There's lots of them all over the place. Next one. And then a little bit of a talk. I think Leslie's going to pick it up and talk a little bit about the supply.
Sure, I can. All right, so we're talking about the surplus and shortfall of what we're looking at for magnets. I think this first graph here tells a huge story, right? So right now in 2024, we have an 8 kiloton surplus. We're doing okay. But as you look, as we're projecting out to 2035, we have a 206 kiloton shortfall, which is huge. We need to be able to help fill that market need. That middle picture there is actually a color photo. That is how they process and mine rare earth magnets in China, or in areas that China controls. 1 kilogram creates over 2,000 kilograms of waste. So a very, very dirty and unclean process for our current magnets that we have today. And as we mentioned earlier, China's monopoly is real. It controls 90% of the world's global supply of magnets. I think we talked a little bit about this as well, as far as how we are green, and Pete touched on it. I know we're a little short on time, so I'm just going to let you review this slide. But overall, we just want to reemphasize the fact that we have the clean earth magnet. We have clean water, clean air, healthy communities, abated emissions. And if you look at the green bar there, that's how we help to fix the problems that the rare earth magnets have been creating. When we look at the only company identified in the U.S. security assessment, I think the story is yesterday you said that we did not solicit this. Is that the right wording, government official? This was just, we found this on the web. Maybe you do this part. This is better for government relations to talk about.
So in 2002, the U.S. Department of Commerce actually did a study looking at the U.S. supply chain for rare earth permanent magnets. Now, as Leslie indicated, China controls the marketplace today. The U.S. today currently does not produce any permanent magnets. The entire enterprise went overseas back in the 1990s. What's interesting here, though, is the U.S. Department of Defense is investing very heavily on bringing rare earth permanent magnet manufacturing back to the U.S. There's 3 companies who are standing up 2 facilities in Texas, 1 in South Carolina. They will basically support about 5% of the total market for the U.S., which is very small. Globally, it's less than 1% of the global market. And what we are looking at here today is, in the U.S. Department of Commerce study, we were identified as the only alternative available today. And so we're very proud of just how that technology is really maturing itself. And then what was on the previous slide, I just want to emphasize here, the study that was done there that showed the environmental cost savings, that was done by Purdue University. A professor who actually worked in the mining industry looked at what are the pathways for traditional rare earth mining and magnet manufacturing versus Niron Magnetics clean earth magnets. We are on average between a 75 and a 95% environmental cost savings. What's important here too is we are a derivative of iron, okay? I will never be 100% clean. I'm just gonna be candid with you. But in our manufacturing processes, we are making sure that we're putting steps in place that we are recycling and limiting any kind of environmental hazards that come out of the manufacturing plant. And that's one of our key priorities for the company. Go ahead and next chart. So let me just talk a little bit while I'm up here also about our plan to build our 3 facilities that we're looking at today. First is our commercial pilot facility. Again, this is the facility we're building in Northeast Minneapolis that we're building in partnership with the U.S. Department of Energy, ARPA-E. Right now, this is a facility will build up to 10 tons per year. And again, right now, this is a fully funded project. We've got approximately 91 full-time employees. We are planning to beef that up to about 105 by the end of this year. You can see our average employee salary is about $135,000, so very good paying jobs. For the first manufacturing plant, our goal here is to break ground in mid-2025 on this plant here in Sartell. It'll be a 1-year build. We are envisioning 175 full-time employees going into that facility. We are going to basically build the entire facility, but we're going to stage our growth plan. And basically, we're going to bring in 100 tons, 500 tons, and then bring an additional 1,000 tons over an 18-month cycle. So by late 2027, we'll be fully up and operational, is the plan for that facility. Now, what's also important here is we are planning to use union labor for building that facility. We're envisioning about 165 union laborers who will be supporting the facility build over that 18-month cycle period of time, too. We're already talking with the Minnesota AFL-CIO about partnerships that will basically put us in place on how we would unionize for the construction work on that facility, which is very important to us as well. Finally is our high-volume manufacturing. We kicked off late last year a nationwide site selection on where we would build a high-volume manufacturing facility. High-volume manufacturing is a 10,000-ton facility. It's about a $700 million infrastructure build and brings about 700 full-time jobs. What's very unique about the Sartell location is it could provide us opportunities to expand our footprint, going beyond 1,500 tons to what could be a 3,000-ton or a 5,000 or even a 10,000-ton facility on one solid footprint and bringing additional jobs to the community here. We're very excited about the partnership with the community and looking at how we can actually build and become good corporate partners as well as investors in your community as a whole.
I think one thing that's worth saying is this is not going to look like a chemical plant or anything like that. It's a high-tech facility. We have a lot of high technology going in there. We are currently based in the middle of Minneapolis, and we're using exactly the same unit operations in that facility as we will be using in Sartell. And the final stages of the equipment is exactly the same size as what we'll be using here. It is not noisy. It is not smelly.
And I just want to count, we didn't talk about this, but it was up when Mayor took over or gave it to us. This is just a rendering. We did it for one of our locations that we would have had to create one congruent building in one of the metro areas. We're envisioning we may have to have several separate buildings, but it will still look clean. That's kind of the point of showing this rendering. It's one of many options that we could come up with at the end of our engineering design. He's going to look much better than this if you couldn't hear what he said. So that's it for us, Mayor. Thank you so much.
All right. I think that probably answers a lot of the questions that have been sitting out there of who is Niron, what does Niron do, why do we need magnets? Through the journey that I've been on with our staff and council, I've learned a heck of a lot about magnets. And as I look at my phone every time, the 3 cameras, I now know that I've got 12 to 18 magnets in there that without them, my cameras won't work. So from a community standpoint, truly look at this as the best thing to hit Sartell from an economic driver, from an employment, all the way back to the paper mill. So it will become a very large employer within the city of Sartell, likely second to the school district. And as we saw in phase 1, or their initial build out, which they anticipate being able to start production in 2026, it's 175 jobs that are well paid. And that can only grow up to, hopefully we can get to that 700 point. But as we think about, and we've leveraged GSDC in partnership with St. Cloud State to help us understand what is this impact. On the surface, it sounds really good of, wow, you got a big employer looking to come to the area, city of Sartell or regionally. Sure, it's going to generate tax base. Sure, it's going to generate jobs. What is it going to do for housing? What is it going to do for restaurants? What is it going to do for retail? We've spent 2 years actively working to try and add an additional hotel into the city of Sartell. We have all of the youth that come for our sporting events here in Sartell. And after the game's over, what do? They all retreat to St. Cloud or Waite Park to stay there, eat there. Once the kids go to bed, the adults might have a beverage or two. How do we lock that in here? How do we use that as a driver for our economic engine within the city of Sartell? And I'm confident that Niron plays a significant part in our future there. So again, a couple items here. Why is this good for a city of Sartell? Job creation, certainly, right? Economic growth, I've hit on that a little bit. Diversified tax base, we've talked about. Number 7, and these aren't in any particular order, but number 7 might be top of the list for us. We had representatives from the state of Minnesota, from DEED, in Sartell. They were traveling with Niron as they toured all the different sites in the state of Minnesota. And the feedback that we got of how Sartell, how our region is a gem that our Department of Employment and Economic Development had no clue about. This is the type of stuff that puts us on the radar. This puts us on the map, right? And so we parlay a Niron build out along with professional and healthcare growth. And Sartell quickly fades away from being thought of as just a neighborhood community. And now we truly become an economic driver. So we talked about the economic study. I won't go in detail here. I believe it is on our website as well. You can check out there. But there's an analysis that, again, partnership with GSDC, King Banyan, St. Cloud State, really helped objectively tell the story for what is the impact of a deal like Niron or a partnership with Niron coming to the city of Sartell and then regionally. So again, a lot of our work to this point, trying not to have the rose-colored glasses, truly understand what is our impact, how do we measure that, and how do we measure it moving forward. But I can tell you, as you would evaluate in your own businesses, the ROI is a great ROI for the city of Sartell and our region. So what's next? Well, this is day 9 of a 180-day due diligence period. So do we have all the answers yet? We don't. There's a lot of work that needs to happen over the next 171 days. There's a subsidy agreement that will take place. There is the platting of the property. There's an active landfill neighboring the parcel that they're planning to build on. We as the city of Sartell own and operate that now. We want to put restrictions on it. They want to put restrictions on it. At this point, our restrictions align, which is very positive. We, as the city of Sartell, do not want to see that become a demolition landfill, as some of our neighboring communities have. Yet it's a value, it's an asset to us as the city of Sartell. And so how do we leverage, harness that asset longer term while doing what's right, not only for the businesses that surround it, but also our residents? I'll likely close here with our public-private partnerships. So we've talked about this for 2 years now or better, of being very intentional about growing our business and our commercial. It has worked in the childcare grant. If you'll recall, the city of Sartell, in partnership with United Way, understanding the deficit of childcare availability in our region, offered a grant. That drove, and likely we overcome within the next 12 to 18 months, Sartell specifically won't have a deficit in childcare spots available. When you want to think about your workforce, how are you retaining, how are you attracting new workers? If they don't have a spot to drop off their child for daycare, or if they don't have consistent childcare available, they're probably not showing up for work that day. When we think about childcare, it's twofold. It's one, to support our businesses. It's another for those of you that have currently have young children or have in the past. Think about your drive from home to daycare drop-off to work, and then redo that in the evening, right? So that proximity of daycare availability in Sartell, again, not only supports our business, it supports our residential growth in City of Sartell. They're going to want to locate in Sartell, live in Sartell, if they have that option where there's childcare available. Second one is our public-private partnership has worked in the Central Minnesota Healthcare Hub. We've talked at length about that, and that continues to grow. We've got a number of developers, I think some in the room today, that have put a stake in the ground there, have put their own money into that campus area, and are working to develop that. It's working with Niron. And so again, I can't tell you enough, and Leslie and team hit on it as well, but just the energy that was between the city staff, Niron, all the partners in the room, of how do we come together. We showed up differently. Sartell showed differently than the 75 other communities. And that's why we're here celebrating this today. And we hope to replicate, double down, you name it, on the Mill District. So we will continue to look for partners and continue to grow our commercial development. Next phase is the Mill District. I think that is all I have. On the screen, and again, I think most in here know how to get a hold of us. My contact, our city administrator, Anna's contact, and then Nikki Sweeter. We'll stand for some questions. I did get a list of some submitted questions. I'm not sure how we're doing on time. 5 minutes, okay. All right, first one that had some consistency to it was, this location appears to be established in the heart of South Sartell as an industrial park. Is that the intent of further expansion and development in this area? It's a great question. I think I can flip back to, the area in which we're developing is, again, 167 acres. Niron is planning to acquire 7980 of those acres. It's on the north side of the landfill. That landfill is currently 27 acres. I think it flexes up to a 40-acre parcel. South of the landfill goes into residential, and then you've got West Bridgeport. And so I know from day one when we announced this opportunity with Niron, there was a lot of concern of, why is there industrial going in my backyard? right? First comment I'd offer there is it's not going to be in your backyard. Second is that property's been zoned light industrial and has an active landfill on it. Third is when we redid 4th Avenue South a number of years ago, we did it with the intentional desire and plan of developing those properties out under that industrial plan, right? So we've got infrastructure there. It's been zoned, it's been planned for that. And that landfill will act as a natural buffer to residential homes. One that we've gotten a lot, I don't know that it came necessarily from today, but can we watch the listening sessions or the State of the City? Yes, you can watch the State of the City. Listening sessions forthcoming. There'll be a number of them. Check our website out, probably social media as well. But there's a number that are planned already, and they will be televised or they will be recorded and shared out as well. Again, as additional information comes in, questions come in, I know our staff is working to continue to update that. What will be the future negotiation process, hearings, or engagement opportunities? For the general public, I would say the best opportunity is to show up at one of the listening sessions. Understand what is being presented, and at each one, there's likely some additional information that's able to be shared as the 180 days or 171 remaining move forward. So show up, provide that feedback, and if you're not able to attend one of those or listen to one of those, I would say reach out to our staff members at City Hall, and we can capture your feedback, we can capture your questions, concerns, or excitement. That's a wrap. I appreciate everyone coming today. I hope you learned a little bit. 3 things to take away. Sartell remains a safe, livable community. We're being intentional about growth, and we're holding our tax rate. Thank you.
Thank you again. Wow, that was really informative. I don't really have much to say after all that.
I don't either, except for thanks for not raising our taxes in Sartell. So, and this sounds exciting. So,
I have no idea what just is on the screen right now. Anyway, we were going to thank our chamber sponsors for the year: Granite Logistics, Gabriel Media, Magnify Financial, and then Conway Duth and Schmeezing, Advantage One Insurance, and I'm missing one. I know I am.
Nikki, Agency North.
Agency North.
Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, and Tech.